meant to be. And I can move on to the next thing. Rather than going into a relationship with the mindset that, look, maybe not everything is perfect in this situation, but I'm going to make it a great situation. And that's how you build character, when you stick it out. There was a religious leader in the United States who actually wrote about this, and he was talking about how damaging divorce can be in families, especially where children are involved. And this was his personal opinion, and he made a pretty solid point in this special case. He says, sometimes I have people come up to me, a parent, a mother, a concerned mother or a concerned father. He says, they come up to me and they say, I'm thinking of walking away from my spouse. I'm thinking of walking away from my partner. Now, obviously, if there's abuse taking place, if it's a toxic relationship, that's a different story. But what he was talking about is, people sometimes come to religious leaders for petty reasons, and they want to break up a marriage. That happens. We see this really on a regular basis. He says, even though you might suffer for a little bit, but in the long run, it's actually good for you. Because number one, you are going to build character by sticking it out. And number two, you are going to teach your children and the people that are watching you a very valuable lesson. That when you don't get your way in this world, you don't just pick up your marbles and leave. You don't just pick up your marbles and walk away. That you stick it out. You learn to communicate. Build something. You learn to grow with someone through all of the trials and all of the tribulations. That's how you build character. Not just by taking your marbles and walking away. So there's a number of ways that this growth mindset versus the fixed mindset manifests itself. Now, going back to that question, is people think to themselves, what am I really in control of? What is it in my life that I am really in control of that I can actually change? And what is it that will not change? Now, I just want to make a very quick point here. When we talk about being good at something or being competent at something, we talk about two things, skill and talent. Skill and talent are two different things. Talent is something that you're naturally born with. Some people, they're naturally born, they're natural athletes, for instance. They're very good at sports. Whatever sport you put them in, soccer, basketball, baseball, football, they're really good at it. Some people, naturally, they're talented and they have a good singing voice, for instance. So talent is something that happens naturally, whereas skill is something, a proficiency that you build over time and through the process of repetition. And sometimes you find people who are skilled, who are preferred over people who are talented. Because when you work at something, when you build something, you build what in Arabic we call a malaka, an ability. And when you build an ability to go through something, which happens through hard work, you're always better off than the person who is naturally talented. Normally people who are naturally talented see themselves as not really having to work hard, thus they don't really have to achieve anything. So when it comes to our lives and moving forward, and this is the message that I want to leave you with in this part of the sermon, is the idea that at no matter what age we are, no matter what position we are in life, there's always room for improvement. We can always grow. People talk about new year, new me. What does that mean, new year, new me? I mean, is there something special about January 1st? Does something spiritual happen on January 1st? Now, whether you celebrate the new year on January 1st or on, March 21st, that's irrelevant. There's nothing that happens spiritually to you or mentally or physically to you based on an arbitrary date on the calendar. The secret is in your day-to-day habits. So it's not new year, new me, it's new habits, new me. And most people, because they haven't changed their mindset on their habits and how they can grow through their habits, they remain the same person year after year, month after month, decade after decade, and century after century if they make it to the next century. So as we move forward within this year and within this decade, let us spend some time in reflection thinking about our habits. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to grow through our habits. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to grow through our character, through our struggles. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر وصلوا على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك وترحم على محمد وآل محمد كما صليت وسلمت وباركت وترحمت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد وصل اللهم وسلم على أوصيائه وخلفائه علي أمير المؤمنين وقائد الغر المحجلين وعلى البضعة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين وعلى سبط نبي الرحمة وسيدي شباب أهل الجنة الحسن والحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل مخرجه وجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه عباد الله أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل. I just want to quickly share with you a narration that most of you are familiar with, a hadith from our Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullah wa salamu alayh, where he describes three types of people, three categories of people. Category number one is who he refers to as alimun rabbani, a learned scholar, an educated person, someone who is enlightened, someone who has gone through the process of enlightenment. The second category is muta'allimun ala sabil najat, a student, someone who is on the path of knowledge, someone who is on the path of enlightenment, on the path of salvation. And the third he refers to as hamajun wa ru'a. These are people who are uncivilized, unguided, and they care nothing for being learned. They care nothing for enlightenment. They care nothing for being students. These are the people that in today's world, they have an opinion about everything. And all you need to do is scroll through social media and you'll find a good handful of those people. And we live in a world, unfortunately, where everyone believes that they have a valid opinion on something. And this is truly misguidance from the shaitan. And unfortunately, in this world, of course, that narration describes that third category of people are people who sway with the wind. Whatever direction it goes in, they sway. So if someone with a microphone who is influential tells them something, they sway in this direction. Someone else says something, they sway in the other direction. They're full of indecision. They're not free thinkers. They can't make up their minds. They can't think to themselves. And so they've outsourced in the same way that our country outsources jobs to other countries. Many people in this country have outsourced their brains and their minds to what they see on TV and in social media, and they allow everybody to do the thinking for themselves. And they are the last people to think for themselves. They are not independent thinkers. You know, there was a quote, they quoted Malcolm X one time. He said, be very careful of the media, of watching the media. Because if you're not careful, the media will have you loving the oppressor and hating the oppressed. And unfortunately, that's a conundrum that we live in today, where the truth and falsehood are not easily discernible, because everyone has an opinion, and we live in the age where everyone has a microphone. You know, when you study history, you realize that the way that people such as Muawiyah and Yazid were able to temporarily, and I say temporarily because it certainly was not permanent, temporarily achieve victory was through propaganda. Their people were brainwashed, so much so that people showed up during the Battle of Siffin before And when they realized that this man, who they had built animosity in their heart against, Amir al-Mu'mineen, when they saw him praying and they heard that he actually prays 5 times a day, they began to bite their hands. Oh my God, really? We've been told our entire life that this is a person that does not pray, and so we have to fight against him. So one of the companions of Imam Ali, he takes this person by the hand before the battle. He takes him to the tents of the companions one by one. He says, you see this companion? He's praying, right? This is a companion of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the one who doesn't pray. You see this companion? He's spending his entire night in prayer. He's a companion of the man you believe does not pray. So be very, very careful. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to truly protect us from the fitna of ignorance, for it is the most destructive fitna. I want to share with you just a few words. And really the most powerful weapon that we have is dua. The most powerful weapon that we have collectively is the power of dua. But I want to share this poem that I came across very recently. It's called Pity the Nation. Pity the nation whose people are sheep and whose shepherds mislead them. Pity the nation whose leaders are liars, whose sages are silenced, and whose bigots haunt the airwaves. Pity the nation that raises not its voice except to praise the conquerors and acclaim the bully as a hero, and aims to rule the world by force and by torture. Pity the nation that knows no other language but its own, and no other culture but its own. Pity the nation whose breath is money, and sleeps the sleep of the too well-fed. Pity the nation, oh pity the people, who allow their rights to erode and their freedoms to be washed away. My country, tears of thee, sweet land of liberty. And truly, it's a pity sometimes that we find ourselves in a world that Imam Hussein alayhi salam described many years ago. He said, أَلَا تَرَوْنَ أَنَّ الْحَقَّ لَا يُعْمَلَ بِهِ وَالْبَاطِلَ لَا يُتَنَاهَى عَنْهُ. Aren't your eyes open to these ironies that we live in today, where the truth is not acted upon and falsehood is promoted and vice is promoted as if it's the truth? So ignorance is the biggest detriment to our societies. It's the biggest detriment to our communities. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whatever happens to us, whatever adab, whatever punishment and torture that happens to us, that He does not veil our eyes from the truth. That's the worst form of punishment that any of us can bear. We know that on this day, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. Sometimes we tend to forget when we see I don't really know how to describe being politically correct, and this microphone is a big responsibility, but I believe everyone knows what I'm speaking about today. When we see injustices carried out, sometimes we tend to forget that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching, but God has a plan. وَيَمْكُرُونَ وَيَمْكُرُ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. They deceit, they plan, they calculate, but God is the best of planners. God is the best of calculators. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from this fitna that is emerging. One way that we protect one another is by being for one another, is making sure that no divisiveness comes in our own communities, that we stay tight, locked in as brothers and sisters. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna Allah ya'muru bil-'adli wal-ihsani wa ita'i dhil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal-munkar wal-baghi ya'idukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum. A couple of announcements. Next Saturday, which is the 18th, we have our monthly Quran study and monthly sister session, and at the end of this month, January 25th, 26th, and 27th, which is Saturday to Monday, we are commemorating the martyrdom of Lady Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. Saturday and Sunday will be in English, and Monday will be in Farsi. Inshallah, we will send out the flyer. For all of those who want to stay updated, please follow us on social media and subscribe to our email. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات، إنك مجيب الدعوات، إنك قاضي الحاجات، إنك على كل شيء قدير، برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.